Continuing on with Chapter 2 is Section 2.2, Complementary Angles and Supplementary Angles. And two definitions before we get into actually using them. Complementary angles are defined as two angles, or two or more angles, that add up to 90 degrees. So essentially we can put them together and we can create a right angle, which we're going to use it as 90 degrees. Supplementary angles are very similar in the fact that they're going to add up to a specific number, but instead of adding up to 90 degrees, they're going to add up to 180. So instead of forming right angles, they're going to form straight angles. So let's start off with our proof. And our proof says that we are given that AB is perpendicular to BC, and we also want to prove that angle ABD and angle CBD are complementary. So we've got a couple different options. And thinking back to the notes that we took yesterday, we know that perpendicular means one of two things. Either we have a right angle or we have a 90-degree angle. And depending what suits our needs, we're going to pick one or the other. In this case, because of what I'm trying to prove, that I'm trying to prove complementary angles, we just said that complementary angles are 90 degrees, I think I'm going to use the fact that they form 90-degree angles. So first I start off with my given information. Let me rewrite that so it doesn't look so bad. Here we go. Perpendicular to BC. And that's given information, so I'm going to write given. Now, if it's perpendicular, that means that we have an angle right here. That's a right angle. But we said we can also use the fact that it's 90 degrees, and I'm going to use that in my proof. I'm going to say that angle ABC, or sorry, the measure of ABC, equals 90 degrees. And my reason for that is from the given information that I had perpendicular. Perpendicular forms 90-degree angles. Again, if right angles is more suited to what we're doing, then we'll say right angles instead of 90. From there, we know that angle ABD is complementary to angle CBD. And you'll notice when I wrote complementary, I abbreviated it COMP. You want to use that abbreviation as we go through. The reason I know they're complementary is that if I take angle ABD and angle CBD together, they give me one larger angle, which is 90 degrees, which is my right angle. So my reason for this is going to be that complementary angles form (90 degrees). So I took my two smaller angles, ABD and CBD, and together they gave me ABC, which was my 90-degree angle. For example number 2, we're trying to find the complement and supplement of a 93-degree angle. So we'll call our angle 93 degrees. That's what's given to us. And to find the complement of that, you're supposed to take that angle away from 90. So you're supposed to take 90 minus 93. And we run into a problem because we have an angle that's bigger than 90. If you have an angle that's bigger than 90, it's already past 90. There is no complement. So if you subtract these, you get -3, which means there's no complement. But the supplement we can find because our angle is less than 180. So we take 180 minus 93. That gives us 87. So again, if the angle's above 90, there's no complement, but you can still find the supplement to it. Now we get into some more complicated algebra-based problems, and this is where we have to be really, really careful on how we set this up. If you follow the setup that I do every single time, you'll get these questions right. Now, if you try and set up an equation without showing any kind of setup, you run into some real danger on the later problems. The question says one of two complementary angles is 3 times the other. So I don't know what either of the angles are. I'm going to call angle 1 x. And I'm going to call my complementary angle, so I'm going to have a complement to that. I've got one of two options. I can call it 90 minus x, because that's going to tell me the complement. But because they tell me it's 3 times the other, I'm going to call this 3x. Now I know that if I put them together, because they're complementary, I'm going to get 90 degrees. So I'm going to take x plus 3x and set it equal to 90. So that gives me 4x equals 90. And when I solve for x, I get 22.5. The question says find the angle, so we want both angles. So we're going to take that x and plug it back in for angle 1. So angle 1 is 22.5, because it's the same value as x. And the other angle, the complement, angle 2, whatever we really want to call it, we'll just call it complement to be consistent. We have two ways to do that. One is to take it from 90. The other is to take that 22.5 and multiply it by 3. Either way, we should get 67.5 for our second angle. So our two angles are 22.5 and 67.5. For example 4, it says the larger of two supplementary angles is 30 degrees more than twice the other angle. So again, I don't know either of my angles. I'm going to call angle 1 x. And I'm going to call angle 2, or I can call it supplement. It's the same basic idea, because I know they're supplementary. It is 30 degrees more than twice the other angle. This is the other angle. So I'm going to make sure I take care of that twice, which means 2x. And it's 30 more than that, so plus 30. Because they're supplementary, I'm supposed to add them up. X plus 2x plus 30 equals 180. X and 2x are the same, or well, they're like terms, I should say. I can put them together. I can take 30 away. And I know that x is 50. So now I'm going to take that 50 degrees, fix that so it says equals instead of greater than. Don't want to confuse you on this. So x equals 50. I'm going to take that 50 degrees and I want to find both angles again. So I'll plug that back in for x. I get 50. And I take that 50 and plug it into here. 2 times 50 is 100. Add 30. 130. And just a quick double check, 50 plus 130, yep, that adds up to 180. They are supplementary. For example 5, it says two supplementary angles are in the ratio of 2 to 3. So again, this is the one where you have that ratio. Anytime you see the ratio or you see those little dots in between meaning ratio, that tells you got to put an x on those. So I know that angle 1, and we'll call it angle 1, equals 2x. And angle 2 is 3x. They're supplementary. That means I'm going to take them and add them up to 180. Two x and 3x is 5x. Divide by 5 and you end up getting 36. Now here's where I have to be very careful, because it says find the larger supplement. So we don't want this 2x, we want the 3x. So 3 times 36 gives me 108. And that's my larger supplement. I can double check, plug it back into the small one, I get 72. 72 and 108 does give me 180, so my algebra seems to work. All right, one last problem. So we've seen questions like this before, and it has to do with the fact that we have to assume a straight angle. And we talked about these two angles adding up to 180, but we never called them supplementary angles. And today we're adding that little extra piece. So I know that these two angles, 9x and 3x, together have to give me 180. And that's a terrible looking 3, so let's fix that. So 9 and 3 is going to give me 12x, which means that x is 15. Now I want to find angle DBC, so I'm going to plug it back into this angle here, the 3x. So 3 times 15 will give me 45. So now that we have that new terminology, we're going to say that angle ABD and angle DBC are supplementary. And we found out that DBC was 45.